Okay, so right at the top, okay, on your study sheet, you're going to do the same. There's complementary. What are complementary angles? Two or more angles that add up to 90. It is right to complement someone. Right to complement. Yeah, it sounds. But just make sure you have this, right? And you have, they add up to 90. You'll have something like that scenario. Supplementary, what do they add up to? 180, right? It's double. And so you want to think of, right, a hat where you get to have 180 there. But if you cut it, those two still add up to 180. Right? So that's the difference here. Every once in a while, these sneak into a question, and you just have to recognize it. It's just one extra step, okay? So let's try this. A captain of a boat sees 2 points of land. Point C is 1.8 kilometers east of the boat, so it's right here. And then, and point A is at a bearing of 12 degrees. Don't worry about this. You don't have to know this necessarily, but bearing is a navigational method where north is 0, and 90 degrees is going east, 180 degrees you would be going south, and 270 you would be going west, and then if you set 360 you're back to north. It's just if you told someone, a captain of a ship, hey, head in the direction 12, bearing of 12 degrees, a captain would know exactly where to head, right? You can't do this on land because there's like houses and stuff like that, right? You can't just go straight through a path, so we don't use it as much. But this is what they're saying, 12 degrees. That's the bearing. So it's always with respect to the north line that they measure. Point A and C are 2.5 kilometers apart. How far is the boat from point A? So it's asking, this is what it's asking us to solve for, right? How far is the boat from point A? It's very important to identify the side that you're trying to find. So what's the problem here? Do you see any of these two here? I'm going to go back up. Do you see either this one or this one in this scenario? Yeah. Which one do you see? Complementary? You are right. And this is where it is. If you take the north line and the east line, you've got a 90 there. We know that there's a 90 at that corner, at this corner right here. Okay, so if this line right here, just pay close attention, if this cuts it, right, and this is 12, this part is 12, what will this part be? 90, yeah, 78, right? You just go 90 minus the 12. Take away this 12. Take away this chunk here. And then you're left with 78. This is the only thing that I'm going to teach you today that is new. This step right here. Okay? So you just have to recognize it. So that 78 is going to make it inside my triangle, right? I know that this angle here is 78 degrees, and now you have a triangle that has an angle, because before the 12 was outside the triangle, useless. You need something inside the triangle, and then you're working with it. Does that make sense? You'll have to practice. Don't get me, like you'll have to practice. So once you have that, so we took away the 12 from the 90 to get the 78. What are we going to use to solve here? You have a pair, right? So we're going to go sine of 78 over 2.5 kilometers is equal to sine of A over this, correct? That's the only thing we can do right now. Sine of A over 1.8. Okay, and then we're going to go sine A is, you've got to cross multiply and divide. .5. Let's figure out what that is. It has to start with a 0. We're doing good. Angle A is sine inverse shift sine equals 44.77 degrees. Important, but not the answer yet. Okay, so we found what? We found this angle up here. If you like different colors, I'll make that show up color coded. So we solve for this angle right here, the measure of that angle right there. In order to find x, though, we need to have this angle right here. And now that we have 2, that's a pattern, guys. If you have 2, you find the third one. So we're going to go angle C. Let me just scroll down a bit here. There we go. Angle C is just going to be 180 minus 78 minus the one I just found. That is 15.723. Also important. I haven't used orange yet. So that's this one right here. I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of stuff happening here. Okay, so that is fine. You might have to sit down and just try it. So now that I have this angle, right, I'm ready now. You need to have the angle to solve for side x. Okay, so let's do that. It's gonna look up here real quick. I'm gonna start with the same pair I started with earlier. Okay, I'm gonna start with that same pair. Sine of 78 over 2.5 kilometers. But now I'm gonna use this angle right here. Sine of 57.23 over side x. If you're color coding like I am doing here, I'm just going to show you, right, that I inserted that angle, this one here, into it. So 2.5 times sine of 57.23 divided by sine of 78. You plug that all in. It's 2.15 kilometers. And this is the final answer. This is what they were asking us for. How far is the boat? Right, how far is the boat from point A? So this side here of the triangle. There. I want to emphasize this very much. So I'll just say this. Complementary angles. Okay, that's what I used here. This is where everything hinged on in this particular scenario. You know what the province usually does? They'll have a letter for that angle, the 78 that we found. They'll ask you, what is it? And the idea is you go 90 minus 12 to get it. If you get that wrong, you get -1. You lose the 1 mark. But if you use 12 then, for all your work, you use 12, you'll get all this right. Because you missed the boat, in this case. You missed the boat, literally. But then they just follow through with your work. So you still stand a good chance of scoring a lot of marks there. Let's keep going here. 30, I want you to try 33 with me. I'm not going to solve the whole thing. I'm just going to ask you. This may or may not show up again something like this on 33. A ship travels south from the port, so right, you go from here, travel south for 2 hours at 35 kilometers an hour. Circle this. How far did you travel if this is the case? 70 kilometers, correct? 2 times the speed. I told you about that before. So 2 hours times 35 kilometers per hour, that means you traveled 70 kilometers. So we can actually label this side here with 70 kilometers, like that. Never seen this on the exam, but you never know. Watch this. The boat then changes course and travels 20 degrees west of south. This is super weird, I know, but just look at where the 20 is here in the diagram. Diagram is provided, okay? Just that. And then 3 hours at the same speed. So it turns here, it turns, and goes for 3 hours in this direction. How far are we traveling in this case? 3 hours times 35 kilometers per hour. What is that, 105? Yeah, 105. So we can go to the triangle and go 105, right? So the speed and the time helped us to figure this out. Question, what law are we going to use to solve? Because it's asking how far is it from the port after 5 hours? And notice you traveled 2 hours here, 3 hours there. So it does make sense that it's asking us how far after 5 hours. So this is what they're asking us for. What law would you use? Cosine? SAS, yes. Sort of. You're there. Is this 20? Can I use the 20 though when I use SAS? Supplementary angles. Okay, so I'm going to use a color. Do you see a straight line here? Right? And then you see the hat, right? So we're going to go what? 180 minus the 20 gives us this one. Okay. Can I do it inside? I hope you don't mind. 180 minus 20. There. Supplementary angles. This is what this lesson, this example right here hinged on supplementary angles. To be honest, if it doesn't look like a straight line, it's probably the other one where you have a corner of some sort, right? So this one for me is the easiest one to identify. They were kind of like hint, hint. There's a straight line here, right? So this is a mark right there. SAS, absolutely, SAS. Okay, so SAS, cosine law. I will solve it after all because I like you to have lots of examples in your booklet. You can't say Mr. Dirksen never did any examples. He just let us sink. It was sink or swim, right? I don't like that to be the case. So you got to use this one. Don't use the cosine one because like the cosine of angle, you can't do that. You need side, side, side on that scenario. In that scenario. You type this all into your calculator, you get a big number. Maybe that's what I also need to warn you. The numbers could be really, really small or really, really big, right? So you don't let that throw you off. You just go by. That's why practicing is key, because then things like that will not throw you off. You get 29,738.48153. I'm actually writing down all the decimals here. And then just press the square root button. It's 172.48153. 4.5. And we are in kilometers. So a little less going on here, not as much as the other one. Just be prepared and just think it through, right? Think it through. I would box this in because this is the work that we needed to solve. And then you had a little bit here going on. This helped us to figure out the length of that side of the triangle. This helped us figure out the length of that triangle. Okay. All right. Enough of me talking. So pages 34 to 36. Review this kind of stuff. So please take the time. Ooh, there's not a lot of time. But we have 10 minutes according to my computer here. Thank you guys. We'll do more tomorrow. I'll post a key as well.